Since Marvel Comics introduced the X-Men in 1963, the Merry Mutants have gone through any number of permutations. Countless characters have joined and left the squad, and the team has produced a slew of spin-off groups that still undeniably fall under the X banner. With the X-Men back in the public spotlight, we wanted to look back on the many iconic rosters of X-Men from the comics and attempt to name the best X-Men team lineup ever. Like Banshee, I can also be found with my shirt unbuttoned way too low and shrieking in a high-pitched voice. I'm your host, Eric Rezsnyak. Please welcome my panel for this debate. Our first panelist is like Forge. He thinks a lot. Also, like Forge, we're not fully clear on how his powers work. It's Brendan Hay.
Hey, Eric. Also, I should just say, Magneto was right.
About hair care? Absolutely. Next, he's obsessed with Cyclops and has the temperament of Emma Frost. It's Kevin Dillon. Kevin, what makes you such a bitch?
Breeding, darling. Which is what I'd actually like to do with Cyclops.
He's not talking about the Mr. Sinister genetic way, just to be clear. And finally, we are going to literally laissez bon temps brûler, as our extra special guest for this episode is the voice actor who brings to life Gambit on X-Men 97. Please welcome to the podcast, AJ Locasio.
Bonjour, mes amis. How are you guys? This is a lot of fun.
I'm a lot better after hearing you say French, because I also would like to apologize to Remy LeBou and every other French person ever for that
Remy
terrible...
Eric. That sounds like what my Nana calls him. Come on.
Remy LeBou, ladies and gentlemen.
Remy LeBou. Oh, boy.
My French is not great. I've had to learn. I took years of French, and I constantly am getting corrected, so I feel you.
Well, I'm constantly getting corrected in my English, so you're still doing better than I am. We are so excited to have you, and I assure you, we will absolutely remember it. Too soon. I'm sorry. And up in the producer booth, we have Bob Erlenbach, who is still defrosting after hanging out with Iceman last night. If you're curious about how we ended up with that Sweet 16, become a Patreon supporter of the podcast, or listen to the 3-minute preview available wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can head to this episode on greatpopculturedebate.com to find the listener bracket so you can play along with us at home. With that out of the way, to me, my X-Men, let's take on these debates. First up, the bulk of the panel wants to move forward the X-Men team circa the Dark Phoenix saga, which is a 1 seed, but I'm full of teen angst over the premature ouster of the original New Mutants, a 4 seed. I will concede victory to the Phoenix Force, but I would still like to speak briefly on the Muties, kind of briefly. So I mostly just want to talk about this team I don't expect to win. This is a significant team in X-Men lore, as it was the very first spin-off squad. The second generation of Teen Mutants debuted in a prestige Marvel graphic novel in 1982. Writer Chris Claremont and artist Bob McLeod gave us the origin story for the group, which included existing mutant Karma and entirely new characters Cannonball, Mirage, Wolfsbane, and Sunspot. This was a diverse group, ethnically and in terms of gender. The New Mutants team was, for almost its entire run, primarily women. I suspect that was deliberate. The New Mutants differ from the original X-Men by leaning heavily into the teen and school subplots. In addition to the original 5, the team would expand quickly, adding Magma, Magic, Cypher, and Warlock, and Karma would drift in and out of the book for most of its run. Virtually all of these characters have gone on to become actual X-Men, some of them quite prominent. I get why they're going out here, but the New Mutants was something totally different for X-Men and for comics in general, and they at least deserve to be recognized. So we will be moving the Phoenix Saga team into round 2. Next, the majority of the panel is loudly backing the Quiet Council of Krakoa, a 2 seed, but Brendan wants to defend the Pre-Mutant Massacre X-Men, a 3 seed. Kevin, tell us why you want to keep talking about the Quiet Council's governing body. Brendan, explain why Magneto's first X-Men squad still attracts you. Brendan, please go first.
Absolutely. First off, I would argue that the Quiet Council are actually more X-villains than X-Men. So that's my big strike against them. Very entertaining villains, but villains. But also, all right, Pre-Mutant Massacre was my first X team. That was when the first issue I ever had of the comic was that team. That was from the Marvel trading cards. That was the version you saw on that little card that I was like, oh, these guys look awesome. I want to start checking out that book, which is how I got into X-Men. So one is, I will admit, and this is going to go for many of my picks, nostalgia is going to play a humongous role here. But I also feel like, so one of the things I really love about X-Men is when they really nail the found family concept, and this was a team that hit that hard. It really did feel like this is adult found family and friends. Like, you could pair off any two of these characters and you'd have like just your own interesting dynamic in solo books, and also frequently conflict. It's like, oh, Colossus and Kitty are broken up at this point. Magneto and everybody you have there. But then you also have like Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Colossus going drinking together. Kitty and Storm as friends. Like it's just this like nice variety of relationships all playing off each other. And I still, when I think X-Men, it'll kind of inform most of my picks here. I want some combination of the characters here in my X squad. This is the one who I feel strongest about. So
yeah. AJ, this is a 3-1. Are you sticking with the Quiet Council of Krakoa here?
That's a pretty even match in a lot of ways. I mean,
I'm happy to jump into my argument, Eric.
Please save me from me having to make this choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard to vote for Apocalypse overall.
It is.
As amusing as he is, I do love him as a character.
And I will tell you why you should. Brendan, I get why you picked yours because I do. This was a hard lineup for me, but and why while I agree in some way, shape, or form there is a villainy to them, I often think the X-Men are more interesting when they're really reflecting on the complexities of what it means to actually exist as a human intersecting with their mutantum, which is why I love that Apocalypse is on this team, because he does represent such a important facet to mutant kind, and like this is the only true team he's really ever been on with them that I can remember or think of. And what I think really actually works is like the political nature of existence, and that's really what this team is all about and represents, and that is who the X-Men are. And there's a mix of villainy and good in there, which I think kind of overall represents the X-Men. I mean, Xavier's on this team. He's one of the biggest villains of all time, maybe even worse than Apocalypse in some ways. But you have this range of ideal and idea and what it means to be a mutant, and they're setting this group up to exist, to flourish, to try and move things forward. And so these are both two great teams. I just give the slight edge to the Quiet Council for that reason.
I get that. I will throw one last thing for Pre-Mutant Massacre. It's also the most punk rock the X-Men have ever been. Like, design-wise.
That's a good argument. That is a good argument.
That is a good argument. AJ, did that help you at all, or did it make things more complicated?
It made it worse because he got me with the punk rock, but like, I will say that because that aesthetic, there's this specific aesthetic that Brendan you're referring to that just like as a kid lit up my brain.
Totally.
I was just like, what is that? I want it. The cards. The cards specifically, there was a look to that is just doesn't exist now. But also Apocalypse. Anytime Apocalypse is thrown into something, you're like, oh shit, he's gonna do some weird stuff.
Yeah,
and he's always. I mean, I find myself. I'm always sort of drawn to villains that are logical, that are like, well, I can't argue against that, which is what Magneto does so well. But also Apocalypse does that for me, where he's just like, I'm like, shit, he's right.
Yeah.
And. I'm going to go with Brendan on this one just because of the punk rock thing. I'm going to say, fuck it. I'm going.
I will go ahead and also give it a Pre-Mutant Massacre. My issue with the Quiet Council, I actually love them as a team, and I love the fact that it's heroes and villains. Well, although that didn't exist, right? It was mutant amnesty, right? But ultimately, it's not really a team, is it? It's more like a UN as opposed to a team. And I think Pre-Mutant Massacre is undeniably an X-Men team. So we will be moving that into round 2. Next, the panel is evenly split between two groups of teen mutants, the original X-Men lineup from the 1960s, a 1 seed, and 90s squad Generation X, a 4 seed. AJ, tell us why the original X-Men are 5 worth fighting for. Brendan, have some skin in the game and explain why you're still in sync with Generation X. AJ, do you mind going first?
I mean, you can't deny the charm of that team. I think that's they're the bedrock of all of us. They're the ones that, I mean, you put them up against anyone, they are the foundation of this. It's hard to argue against them as a concept, you know? It's like they are what created all of this. So I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty vanilla argument, but I'm like, yeah, they're the ones. They're the original. I'm keeping it brief and simple, but they are one of the two things I picture when I think of X-Men. I think of animated series like Pizza Hut, and then I think of them and that cover, you know, that first issue is like such a big, with Beast's weird hairy feet and the mask, and like, that is the icon. Yeah, coming towards you. Many people are awakened by that cover.
Amen to that. Is that why I like guys with big hands? No, the primacy argument is a great argument. We use it on this podcast all the time, because without that thing, we would have nothing else, right? But Brendan, do you want to talk to us a little bit about Generation X?
Yeah, and I agree with everything AJ said. It is one of those, like, look, it's hard to compete with the originals. The one thing I will say, and it's funny, it goes to the vanilla kind of argument, outside of Beast and maybe Xavier, I don't think they're the most interesting characters. Like, even still, like, I think Cyclops has grown a lot across the decades. And Iceman, I think, finally as well in the last maybe like 20 years. Angel and Jean, it really depends on the writer if there's anything there. Versus, I think Generation X, from the minute it started, was a really interesting group of characters. Like, a lot of them were just fun to follow on their own. They had, I'm going to hold up, I have a few X-Men toys ready to go as needed here.
Amazing. Love that.
I mean, look, Jubilee alone, we need Jubilee. But also, it's like Chamber was just such a creative idea and a different type of mutant. Sync is such a different type of power and was really cool. Monet was such a different kind of bitch, and the X-Men needed that too. And it was just great to have all of them together, plus Emma and Banshee getting a nice starring role. I just really like the group dynamics there. And I'm also a sucker for Chris Bacallo art at any point.
Thank you. Kevin, where are you? Is it going to be Gen X or is it going to be the original 5?
The original 5 are more interesting when they're X Factor. And so for me, it's going to be Generation X, led by the fantastically amazing Emma Frost, with a great group of day players that are used much more regularly via Krakoa. They are really good folks. So I'm going with Gen X.
I'm sticking with the original X-Men, and I'll tell you why. I think Gen X is super cool. I think all the concepts and the characters are amazing, but I don't feel like they had a great run. That book tops out at like 75, and for the like 50 issues before it, it was rough. And so I like the characters more than I like the actual exploits of the team, and that's a bummer for me. I hear what you're saying about the original 5, but it still gave us so much that is crucial to the X-Men lore that I'm going to give it to the 05 here. So that's going to move into round 2. Next, the bulk of the panel is in for the international expansion of the all-new, all-different X-Men, a 2-seed. But Kevin is shocked that he's the only person voting for the original Astonishing X-Men lineup, a 3-seed. Kevin argued that we were gifted with this original Astonishing crew. I will come to the rescue of the old-school X-Men and speak on the all-new, all-different group. Kevin, please go first.
Yes, and I know I might lose this, but for a really long time, when anyone would come to me and say, I've never read X-Men, I want to read an X-Men book, what do I do? And I honestly, on a wing and a prayer, would tell them, good luck, Godspeed. If you haven't been reading them for the last 30 years, it is hard to pick them up. This book, though, and this team, and it's hard to kind of celebrate it because it does have a asterisk to it. It is written by Joss Whedon. And I know not everyone is comfortable reading a book written by someone who, I'll just say that, Joss Whedon. But I still will recommend this book. I think this is a perfect book for any person who kind of has a semblance of understanding of who the X-Men are. They can pick it up. It kind of is its own contained story where you get to engage with Cyclops, Emma Frost, Colossus, Beast, eventually Shadowcat, who was lodged in a missile, and they have to remove her from a missile.
A giant space bullet.
A giant space bullet, yes. And it is where Emma and Kitty formed their fondness for one another, which that relationship has a special place in my heart. I love the way they go back and forth with one another. I forgot about Wolverine, but how can you? Because he's so integral to this. I just love this team in this book, and it was a great 50 issues.
What I think is funny is, yes, it is a great team and adventure book. It's also such a soap opera. It is a soap opera.
It's so soapy.
Yeah, for me, yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the giant-sized, the all-new, all-different X-Men, introduced in 1975's giant-sized X-Men number 1. Lest we forget, the original X-Men, which we just moved into round 2 because they were a 1-seed, were flop Tina, honey. The people did not like them. They actually, the last, think 50-something issues of that book before the giant-size reboot were just reprints because no one was buying new stories with them. But 1975 comes around, and Len Wein and Dave Cockrum were given the opportunity to reinvent the concept, and they did. They did an amazing job making it an international cast. You have Colossus from Russia, Storm from Africa, Nightcrawler from Germany, Thunderbird, a Native American, Wolverine, who had already been introduced, but in the Hulk, he was Canadian. And then you also have Sunfire from Japan and Banshee, also previously introduced. They're sent to Krakoa, who was, again, originally a villain, and to save the original X-Men. And after that, Cyclops joins the team. The all-new, all-different team without question saved the X-Men literally and figuratively. If they had not been introduced and in fairly short order embraced by the fandom, this whole franchise dies in obscurity. Everything about this team, from the backgrounds to the designs to the power sets to their chemistry, 10/10, no notes. And it even included one of the very first comic characters introduced solely to be sacrificed in Thunderbird, who stayed dead for literally almost 40 plus years. The rest of the team has gone on to bona fide legend status in the X-Men, with the possible exception of Sunfire. Justice for Sunfire is all I have to say. But Brendan, where are you going here? Is it going to be giant-sized X-Men, all new, all different, or is it going to be Astonishing X-Men?
Giant size, all new, all different. Love Kevin's argument. I actually also used to use Astonishing as the, like, hey, you want a gateway to X-Men? But all new, all different for everything Eric said.
AJ, is it going to be the 1975 giant size all new X-Men, or is it going to be the 2000s? I'm going to say mid-2000s Joss Whedon Astonishing X-Men for you.
I'm going to go with the all new, all different, just for just to wrap it up.
Just to wrap it up. Okay, we'll move them into round 2. Next, it's a unanimous decision by the panel, which is moving forward the 1992 Blue Team, a 1 seed, which meant that the Utopia X-Men, a 4 seed, were not our San Francisco treat. But Brendan, you wanted to speak briefly on the Utopia crew.
Yeah, I just want to say, look, I'm voting blue as well. They are as iconic as they get. But the Utopia team was a really good idea, and I think is an underrated era. Because it was so nice. That was a point when I feel like the books needed something new, and moving them to San Francisco, putting them into a more public-facing role, switching up the dynamics of almost turning it from like Charles and Magneto to Wolverine and Cyclops. Like, all of these were the right ideas for like taking the things you loved about X-Men and just moving it into the 2000s, updating it just enough. So yeah, I think it's an underrated era.
Yeah, it also had a massive roster. Like everybody basically was an X-Men at that point, and that was pretty cool. But yes, we will be moving the Blue Team into.
And I just have to echo, vote blue.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Next, the majority of the panel is fed up, in a good way, with the original X Factor government team, a 3 seed, but AJ is putting on the Jim Lee blue and gold costumes and repping for the X-Men circa Uncanny Set 275, a 2 seed. I will try to cause some havoc by supporting X Factor. AJ, take your chances on pushing for Gambit's very first X-Men crew. AJ, please go first.
That's literally my only reason. Is I'm like, but Gambit. That's which is what I make most of my decisions on in life. So I was just like, but Gambit's in it, so why wouldn't I? It's like if I'm ordering from a menu and there's that one ingredient, it's like, well, it has Gambit in it, so I'm gonna get that. That's why that decision. I've told this story before, but like when I had the auditions for X-Men, as much as I love X-Men overall and would be thrilled to be any piece of it, I was like, I only want to audition for Gambit because it was. Which is insane, and you should never do that when given a list of characters. But I was like, if I'm anyone but Gambit, I won't be happy, truly in my heart, because he's my favorite. So I was just like, I'm going all in on Gambit. But yeah, I mean, this is the run that I'm familiar with, or when I first got into comics, trying to find anything Gambit related and going back to his origins with his weird tiger stripe pants that are on the cover. And so this is roughly where I was trying to find issues and back issues to try to understand. Was it Mother, the character, or the baby Nanny? Nanny
and the Orphan Maker.
Yes, with Baby or Baby Storm, and it's a weird little piece of Gambit's history that is very much so kind of in some ways kind of forgotten. That I was just fascinated with as a kid because it didn't line up in my mind with what I was seeing in the cartoons.
Sure.
So it's very nostalgic, and it's got Gambit in it. So
totally. And I will say, this is a great group. In addition to Gambit, it has Forge and Banshee in leadership roles. As AJ mentioned, Storm had been DH, and she's now a teenager in this run, which is weird. Psylocke is now a ninja. Wolverine, Jubilee, and Xavier. I actually love that group. I'm going to talk on the X Factor government squad, which is Havoc, Polaris, Strong Guy, Multiple Man, Wolfsbane, Quicksilver. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but that it was right when they did all the big relaunches. It actually comes right after the 275 run. It's like Blue, Gold, X Factor, and this was Peter David. It was Larry Stroman. It was a wild, weird book, and I loved every second about it. They took the X Factor concept and made them into feds, and it was really that run, especially the Stroman art up through like issue 100, is almost peerless. I hated what they did to Jamie Madrox ultimately. currently in it, but this was a bunch of total C and D listers, and they were so much fun in this book. I couldn't get enough. Kevin, are you going to go with the Uncanny 275 lineup or X Factor?
I am going with X Factor. I like a little havoc.
I do love a little havoc, yeah. And Brendan, is it going to be X Factor or is it going to be 275 lineup?
X Factor as well. Sorry, AJ.
I'm
You guys
sorry,
are too
AJ.
avant-garde.
Too avant-garde. I can't
I'm
say
on my
that. It's
Pizza Hut
French.
guys. That's always what I'm aiming for. It's like, AJ has a one-track mind, and it's just, how close to the Pizza Hut cups are we getting?
All right, we will be moving the original X Factor government team into round 2. Another even split, this time between Grant Morrison's new X-Men, a 4 seed, and the Outback X-Men, a 1 seed. Kevin, tell us why E is not only for extinction, but also for excellent as you rep for the new X-Men. Brendan, go down under for votes for the 80s icons of the Outback. Kevin, please go first.
Yes, this is another one. Before we recorded this podcast a while ago, I talked to Eric. I was like, I've never read the Outback X-Men. I don't remember that run. It was not a run I've ever read, so I did a little bit of homework on that. So I am sort of swayable in this argument. With that said, I did read Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, and I think, I will say this: unlike Joss Whedon's run, it is not something I would necessarily put every comic book person or person trying to learn about the X-Men in front of them. But this is when Genosha blows up. This is Cassandra Nova. This is the telepathic affair between Emma Frost and Scott Summers, where Jean thinks they've actually had a physical affair. It is pure, weird, soapy. It introduces, I know, one of Eric's favorite X characters, Kid Omega. I know. Sorry, I know that doesn't help win you over, Eric. But Quentin Quire is a very huge deal in the X comic books. He has a huge, what I would say, millennial and Gen Z fan base, and they love him. And this introduced a lot of really young, cool X characters. And I think Morrison understands at the core of what the X-Men are is that they're weirdos. And I think this team is full of a bunch of weirdos and Emma Frost. That's my argument for Grant Morrison's run.
Thank you, Kevin. Brendan, talk to us about the Outback team.
This, I will say, first off, the Grant Morrison run really is fantastic. Grant really does manage to get the perfect middle ground between weird and soap opera. So I absolutely love that run. This is an almost all nostalgia play for me. So Outback was my favorite. This was growing up, so again, I came in at Mutant Massacre. So right after that, you got to Outback, and this was my team. This was the team my period of just reading every month to month, trying to buy as many back issues as possible. And this also really gets to one of the more oddball found family versions of the team. And I also like X-Men at their scrappiest. I don't like them when they are the overdogs. It's one of my biggest issues with the whole Krakoa run I like scrappy, we're just trying to survive and get shit done version of X-Men. And I think Outback really distills that down. So this is the point when the world thinks they're dead. They're almost kind of just this weirdo strike squad operating out of Australia. They had their own teleportation guy. It was just such a fun, weird version. Because you had four, what I consider four classic type characters with Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Rogue, and then you had the kind of odder ones of Havoc, Dazzler, Longshot, and not good at fighting yet Psylocke wearing all her armor. So it's a cool power dynamic between everybody. Again, I love that this was the kind of run that also had hey, Wolverine and Rogue are going to go just hang out for a while at a bar, or the girls are going to all go shopping today. It's just that it alternated between really high stakes stories and hangout stories. Jubilee comes in there. I thought the Reavers was such a fun, weird villain to throw in there. Also, is hey, remember all those people that Wolverine fucked up way back in 133? They're still here as cyborgs and they're mad. This is just. It's also the run that Genosha came out of.
Yep.
So it's a lot of I feel like Claremont doing his weirdest ideas with a very scrappy team, and that just has a place forever in my heart.
AJ, which team did you fall in love with at 12? Was it the Gambit Blue Squad?
Do I have to choose now?
You have to choose now. Yeah, it's the Outback versus the Grant Morrison.
It sucks because I've never heard of the Outback X-Men. That doesn't even ring the smallest bell in my brain. But I've read the Grant Morrison, a decent amount of the Grant Morrison stuff, which I loved. But I'm really digging what I'm hearing about the Outback X-Men. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Because, yeah, I totally agree with Brandon that I don't like when, with Krakoa, it's interesting because it's weird, but it is not at all. It's almost like if Batman was the governor of Gotham, where there's like, it changes the dynamic where you're like, I don't know. They're out of their element. They're in a weird ethereal thing. And Grant Morrison obviously plays with that a lot. Who I love. I do enjoy reading a good Grant Morrison thing because he's out of his mind. But I'm going to go with Outback X-Men because that sounds wacky as hell, and I love that. That's weird, and I need to look into this now because I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. What you said about them shopping or like going to a bar, I'm like, that sounds awesome. Whereas Grant Morrison's like, there's a mind squid that, gets into your brain, and you take LSD, and that's how you see that Storm and Rogue and the shit. Yeah. The way he thinks of things is like, who thought you give him a property and he just messes with it in his own way that I respect and love, but it is also like, how did we get here?
Also, things I respect and love. Your Grant Morrison impression is dear to me and is now instantly iconic. So thank you so much.
My friend and I, John, used to do that all the time. Where it's like, I was on the steps and I saw God, the eyes of God, just right in my eyes. And he came down and he put his finger in my mouth, and I thought, oh, this is it. And I was just like, what are you talking about?
That's amazing.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sticking with the Outback team. Much like Brandon said, this is 100% a nostalgia play, but I also think they're a killer crew. And if you need another reason to read them, Silvestri art, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm going to say. So they'll be moving into round 2 next. Finally, in round 1, the bulk of the panel thinks the UK is A-OK and is pushing for the original Excalibur lineup, a 2 seed. But AJ thinks that the 1990s X-Men Gold team, a 1 seed, is as good as, well, Kevin, draw your sword and defend Britain's greatest super team. AJ, talk to us about the Omega 3 and the Gold team. AJ, please go first.
I mean, I'm a big... I love Storm. I love Bishop. I feel like they don't get enough... I mean, Storm gets a lot of love, but Bishop doesn't get as much love as I feel like he deserves. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, this is purely a gut. Like, I like those characters a lot. And I don't even recall... Who were they up against?
Excalibur. So, Excalibur, this is in the 80s, after the Mutant Massacre team we talked about earlier. A bunch of the remaining X-Men, so you're talking about Nightcrawler.
Widget and Megan? Who the hell are they?
Great point. They were actually British comic characters that they kind of Frankensteined into from like Marvel UK's properties.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm Megan. Just like, what? How did you get here? What's your power?
She was literally a fairy. I'm not making that up. That is true.
Okay. I have a vague, and Widget, I don't quite recall.
Little robot head that could turn into a teleportation gate. It was very strange. Very strange.
All right. Kind of like a Skeets from like a Booster Gold sort of.
Bingo.
Okay.
Exactly that. Yes.
All right. But I mean, for me, it's gut. It's like, I know those characters. When I was looking through, I was like, I know that I like that team. Anyway, that's it. The least, that argument holds no water and will not sway anyone. It's just like, I like it.
Kevin, did he sway you, or are you sticking with Excalibur here?
I love the Excalibur team. I'm sticking with it.
Even Brandon, Megan?
Even Megan. I love Megan.
Brendan, are you sticking with Excalibur, or are you going to go with Gold Team?
AJ totally swayed me. I enjoyed the hell out of reading Excalibur, but it really is like, it's really just Nightcrawler, Kitty, and Phoenix. Like, other than that, this is a Marvel UK book. So if we're talking X-Team, I'll go Gold, because I do love those characters too.
Okay, well, even though Brendan switched, and good job for AJ for making that happen, Gold actually has the lower seed. Excalibur is the 2 seed, and it will continue into the round 2. And that's the end of round 1, folks. We're going to take a quick break to meet up with and deeply disappoint our time-traveling teenage counterparts. We'll be right back.
Welcome, seekers of knowledge, to the hallowed halls of the great pop culture debate archives. Are you yearning for deeper understanding of the cinematic universe? Perhaps a spirited discussion on the merits of 80s cartoons? Or maybe you simply wish to settle once and for all the age-old question, is cereal soup? Our extensive collection of episodes awaits you, each one a treasure trove of passionate arguments, insightful analysis, and the occasional, shall we say, spirited disagreement. From the epic battles of fandom to the quiet contemplation of artistic merit, you'll find it all within our digital stacks. So come explore our full library of episodes at greatpopculturedebate.com. Your quest for pop culture enlightenment begins here.
And we are back for round 2 of our Best X-Men Team lineup debate. Before we get into the Elite Eight, I'd like my panelists to share their social media and what else they're working on. Brendan, hey, you and I actually go way back with Marvel. We started out as interns at Marvel. Neither one of us was in the X-Men office, by the way. I was in the Avengers office. You were in the, what would you describe Ruben's office as?
I was in the books about to be canceled office.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
We had Deadpool at a time that he was not very popular.
Yep.
We had Nova. We had Slingers and Contest of Champions 2.
Which, to be fair, I did enjoy that book.
It was a fun book, but it's also the only comic. It was the experience where the writer of the book was Claremont, and Claremont was also in an editorial capacity, and he was complaining to our office why the book was late. And my editor, Ruben Diaz, got to look at him like beyond stunned in the eyes and say, because you haven't written it yet.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Healthy
There's the lore
comics.
for you. Healthy comics. But can you tell people, A, where they can find you now, and B, what else you're working on?
Absolutely. I'm mostly over on Blue Sky these days. I'm at bhay, than usual Blue Sky nonsense. I still linger around on Instagram at Brendan Hay Writer, so check me out over there. Work-wise, please check out Gremlins The Wild Batch. Now all of Season 2 is up on Max. The rest of Season 2 just premiered there in April. Please check it out. One of my favorite series I ever worked on. Such a blast. And got to hang out with AJ here, who does some of his best Gizmo work also in Season 2.
Yay! I was going to ask you to do a little gizmo for us. Thank you so much.
I was afraid of blowing out the mic, so I did it subdued.
Yes.
I appreciate
And then
that.
also, the one last thing, I also have a whole bunch of articles regularly on spin.com if you want to read my music writing, and a horror comic that just came out recently from Oni Press as part of their Epitaphs into the Abyss. Epitaphs from the Abyss.
Kevin Dillon, where can people find you, and what else you're working on?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Nightwing 23. I know it's an X-Men podcast, but yes, there is a little DC crossover sometimes. And working on, usually for this site, I do a lot of our movie stuff. So if you are a Patreon, you can argue with me about movies and things like that, which is super fun.
Thank you so much, Kevin. AJ, thank you so much again for doing this. It's been such a delight to
course.
have you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm always happy to talk about X-Men stuff, although I will say, like I said before, this time I'm like, oh no, they know more than me. Which I don't have to worry
okay.
about with the rest of the cast.
We're walking children through nature, the children of the atom through nature.
Yes,
specifically, yes. Where can people find you on the World Wide Web?
Just Instagram is probably the best. I don't really use too much else anymore, but at my name, AJ Locasio, there might be an underscore in there. I should probably check, but yeah, and Gremlins, The Wild Batch. I'm also working on that, or have worked on that. I'm Gizmo, as I did before, and I'm but yeah, Gremlins, X-Men 97 is up on Disney Plus still. I'm trying to think of there is other stuff that I can't talk about. I don't know what I can talk about when this episode comes out, but
yep.
Those are the big ones. Go check out Gremlins. X-Men's doing fine. That shows. I can't talk about it enough, and Brendan's heard me talk about how cute and sweet I think everything he makes is, and it's. I was looking through clips actually yesterday for something, and I was like, God, it's so cute and sweet, and it was nice to see. I was looking at YouTube videos, all the people reacting to the show and how great it is, and them talking, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, it's cute, it's sweet, it's also very funny, and I'm not just saying that because Brendan is a friend of mine, but it is a great show. Please check it out on Max. We love it. The best place to follow us is on Blue Sky at gpcd.bsky.social or at gpcd on Mastodon. You should also make sure to subscribe to our page on YouTube, where we're going to be posting a lot more original video content in 2025. But what you really need to do is sign up for our weekly newsletter, new every Tuesday at noon. It tells you about everything coming out in pop culture that week. Sign up by finding the link on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or via our link tree on any of our social media accounts. Now, let's make like Psylocke and apply the focused totality of our telepathic powers to round 2. First up, it's the Phoenix Saga team, a 1 seed, up against the Pre-Mutant Massacre Squad, a 3 seed. And I think we have already discussed we are unanimous on this one. We're giving it to the Phoenix Saga. We haven't even really talked about this team yet, so let me at least lay out for the people who's on it. It's Cyclops, Phoenix, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Banshee, Nightcrawler, it introduces Shadowcat to the book, and then you have Angel and Beast kind of coming in. And I was today years old when I realized they were basically reuniting the original X-Men for that saga, so they could all be there, with the exception of Bobby. Sorry to that man, when Jean inevitably died. But yeah, it is a core book. It is the only Claremont Byrne team we have on this bracket, and I think most people would agree that that's like iconic X-Men, right? So we will be seeing the Phoenix Saga team in the Final Four. Next, in a fitting showdown, it's the original X-Men, a 1 seed, versus the team that saved and then replaced them, the all-new, all-different X-Men, a 2 seed. I think we may also know where we're going here. I just want to check. Brendan, are you with all-new or are you with original?
All new.
We're done with original. We're moving on to the extra tasty, crispy variety, correct? Yes. Kevin, Dillon, is it going to be original or all new for you?
As I said in round 1, I find them more interesting when they're X Factor and they're fighting Apocalypse. So I'm going with all new.
AJ Locasio, is it all new or original for you?
It is all new because the original X-Men is as iconic as they are. They're not what I'm gravitating towards when I'm going to read a comic, unfortunately. It's a different era that it's not quite as palatable for me.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I agree with what Kevin said specifically. The 05 only became really interesting when they reunited in the 80s. It's kind of like the Big Chill of comic books, right? Where like it's teenagers who were a mess, and then they get together as adults, and they're even more of a mess. We will go ahead and move all new, all different X-Men into the Final Four. Next, it's a battle between two teams that debuted in 1991. The X-Men Blue Team, a 1 seed, and X Factor's Initial Government Squad, a 3 seed. Kevin, throw on your bomber jacket and tell us why the blue team should come out on top. And yes, I deliberately put that in your court there, Kevin. Brendan, tell us why this second incarnation of X Factor is still so arresting. Kevin, please go first.
So for me, I think what I love and really appreciate most about this team was I think the X-Men have so many starts and stops, right? So many experiences of reforming, breaking up. There's a genocide of sorts for them, or the Sentinels destroy them or whatnot. But this was the ultimate like coming together of the X-Men in the 90s. And this team and the Gold team, who we unfortunately did kick out because this team's just a little bit more exciting, came together and formed their own essential squads. They all lived under the same roof in the mansion, but they each had their own separate missions. And I think what I liked about this team is, it has a really cool team with Cyclops, Wolverine, Gambit, Psylocke, Beast, and Jubilee is
Rogue.
Rogue. Like that team is just like fire, and like they are everything you want in a team. You have the cool leadership of Cyclops, you have the fun of Gambit and Rogue, and their playful romantic back and forth, their tete-a-tete. I think you have Jubilee at some of her most fun. You have Psylocke where she really is coming into her own, and then you have Beast and Wolverine playing off of each other in a really dynamic and interesting way. And I mean, this was, for a lot of folks who have like iconic comic memories, this was that foundational comic where Magneto becomes a villain again, and that is where you get the blue team and the gold team having that I think it's 4 different covers.
4 different covers.
4 different covers. It's the highest selling comic book of all time, if I'm not mistaken.
True. It is still true.
And these two teams separate off, and they have their own traditional adventures of the X-Men, and there's a fun and a dynamism that exists with this team returning to form, and it is true 90s X-Men.
Yeah, it really is. Brendan, tell us about the true 90s X Factor.
So yeah, this is, you said a lot of what I would say from the last round on that. They were just such a dynamic, different team. For me, it was a case of this is a team that really examined what are the compromises anybody is willing to make for their cause. Can you still be a rebel if you start working for the man? Like, I just love that. It's like it was such a different type of X book while still feeling truly like it was exploring what you want out of an X-Men team. It also is a great found family. Since Peter David was writing it, it was funny as hell. Mm-hmm. You also it was a book that was talking about mental health toll of superheroes long before anybody else was using that term. And it gave us the best code name ever for a superhero, Strong Guy.
Yep.
I really love those characters. I mentioned way back in the Patreon, Jamie Madrox especially is one of my all-time faves, but everybody on that team I just think is so interesting. I'd follow them solo. For the moment, staying with X Factor, but let's see how we go around the horn. I might switch.
So, AJ, one of these teams has Gambit in it, and one of these teams does not. Does that impact the way you're voting?
Does that, do I even need to make an argument? Gambit's going with Gambit. That's it. That's Also, I have a question. I just noticed it says revanche? Revanche? Who the hell's revanche?
So, do you want me to tell you? I'm going to totally nerd out here for a second.
I was like, is that a typo?
So, no, that's actually true. So, right before this happened, Psylocke was originally a British, sad, pale, tragic British woman, right? And she wore armor because she couldn't fight, right? So then, shortly before this, right around the time Gambit is introduced to the X-Men, she gets killed and she comes back to life, and now she's an Asian ninja, right? And people are like, okay, how did that happen? So Revanche is actually...
Atlas.
Yes, and so Revanche is actually Betsy's original body, the British version of Betsy, but the woman who was in the Asian Psylocke's body is now in her body, and Betsy's in the Asian woman's body. It is wild, and of course, Revanche has what we would use as the basically mutant equivalent of HIV/AIDS, the legacy virus. So she's dying, still pale and tragic. That is who she is, and she joins the team around I'm going to say issue 20 or something.
Amazing how much it's. I'm still going with them, even though I have that completely no idea that was a thing. Wow, but yeah, it's got Gambit in it, so that's my argument. Is like, to me, when I think of like the arcade games in that era, that's where my head is at. So
I'm giving it to the blue team here. I love X Factor. I love that whole lineup. And to echo what Brendan said, that is such a funny run. There's one of the teams is Hell's Bells, a bunch of female French mutants, and one of them is named Briquette, and she's just a giant lunk of charcoal. It's so stupid. I love it. Also, Quicksilver's amazing in that book. But we will be moving the blue team into the final four. Finally, in round 2, it's 2 Expatriate 80 squads, the Outback X-Men, a 1 seed, and the original Excalibur lineup, a 2 seed. I'm going to go around the horn on this one. Kevin, are you sticking with Excalibur here?
That's who I had because my other team went out, but with your arguments from the last round around the Outback X-Men and their punk coolness and my reading up on them on some issues, I didn't buy the whole compendium because she's unemployed and it's expensive.
In this economy.
But for me, some of the stuff I had read from the Outback, which I do have some knowledge of, that pushes them over for me. I love Excalibur because they're a bunch of weirdos, but I'm going with the Outback X-Men.
AJ, is it going to be Excalibur or is it going to be the Outback X-Men for you?
I'm going to go with Outback X-Men. Looking through Excalibur, I'm like, it's just, Brendan sold me on, I was like, that sounds cool. I want to look up the collecteds now. I see how expensive they are. It sounds silly and fun, and that's kind of, sometimes I need a little bit of that with my, with my New Mutants or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, okay, that was serious. Give me silly. They're going shopping. I love that. Also, why are they in the Outback? I want to know.
Yeah, it's a weirdly weird run, but I love it. Also, in the silly, it's also very serious because it's the sexual awakening for many people in Inferno when you have Madeline Plyer giving the award-winning achievement in Underboob with her costume, and then the costume she gives Havoc as her Goblin Prince. Gentlemen, I'm just saying. Brendan, is it going to be Outback or Excalibur for you?
Love the expats in Excalibur, but Outback all the way.
All right, so I'm going to make it a clean sweep for the Outback, and it's going to move into the Final Four. And with that, we have our Final Four. We're going to take a quick break to sample some Krakoan fruits. Hey, North Star. We'll be right back after these ads. Good evening. I'm not Baba Wawa, and this is the Great Pop Culture Debate. In the ever-evolving landscape of pop culture, are you finding it difficult to keep up? The debates, the trends, the opinions, it can be quite overwhelming. But what if there was a way to stay informed, to be in the know, without having to wade through a sea of misinformation? I invite you to subscribe to the Great Pop Culture Debate newsletter, a curated collection of the most compelling discussions, the most insightful analyses, and yes, even a few controversial takes. Delivered directly to your inbox, it's your essential guide to navigating the fascinating world of movies, television, music, and more. Join us. Let us explore these cultural phenomenon together. Subscribe to the Great Pop Culture Debate newsletter at greatpopculturedebate.com because as we all know, pop culture, it matters. And we are back with the final four of our best X-Men team lineup debate. At this point in the show, I always like to take a step back and see if it shook out the way I expected it to. So we have the Phoenix Saga team, a 1 seed, up against the all-new, all-different X-Men, a 2. The Blue team, a 1 seed, versus the Outback X-Men, a 1 seed. I'm going to start at the back of the pack with my friend Kevin Dillon. Phoenix Saga team versus all-new, all-different X-Men. This is actually hard because they're not that different from one another.
They're really not. I think the reason I am going to go with the Phoenix Saga team personally is because, I mean, that as much as I don't love the Phoenix, I do love what exists with that team coming together around that story more so than the Krakoa story. And I think for me, it was one of the most, is that comic that imprinted on me in that collected edition as a kid.
Okay, thank you very much. Brendan, is it going to be Phoenix Saga team or all new, all different for you?
It's going to be Phoenix. All new, all different is the iconic one. It's the one that changed the game. It's the one that set this, not only the cast of characters, but the tone of soap opera, everything like that, the cast size. But yeah, it all coalesced in Phoenix. Phoenix is the best version of that.
AJ, is it going to be the Phoenix Saga team, all new, all different for you?
I'm literally just looking at them like action figures right now. I'm like, oh man, okay, they do contain a lot of the same characters.
Yep.
But I think I'm gonna go with the Phoenix Saga because it's also, to me, it's a slim group.
It's
efficient.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it goes and it takes the best parts of the OG squad and it brings them together with the best parts of the all-new style. It's basically peanut butter and chocolate together. It's a Reese's peanut butter cup of an X-Men team, and I think for that reason, it needs to continue into the final two. Next, it's the Blue team versus the Outback X-Men. Actually, only one of these has Gambit again, AJ, but the Outback X-Men lead us right up to Gambit, I will say that. Do you have a preference on this one?
Me specifically?
Yep,
obviously
you
the Gambit
specifically.
one. No, I mean blue team is blue team. Outback. It's funny, I actually, while we had like a moment, I tried to look up the Outback X-Men collecteds to see, and I couldn't even find him. So that's a point against him.
It is, yeah.
Although I don't know what the name would be. I probably can't search Outback X-Men. He'll send them to me. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. But yeah, no, blue team all the way.
Okay, Brendan, is it going to be Outback or Blue team for you?
I'm sticking with my Outback.
Are you okay? Kevin, is it going to be Blue team or Outback for you?
I think to go with Brendan's point of nostalgia, I am going to go with Blue team.
I will also say that this is, I think, where Cyclops started to become a sex symbol, because before this,
Yes.
like, Scott was dowdy and sad and, leaving his wife and all these things, but like Scott's kind of got it going on here. He's fully
dowdy to
embracing
daddy.
from dowdy to daddy.
Yes.
Exactly right.
Yes.
So he's feeling his oats, but he is not cheating on his wife yet. Listen. The girls know I love my Outback X-Men. It's got Dazzler. We haven't even mentioned Dazzler hardly in this episode, which is shocking, if anyone knows me. But to me, it's prime nostalgia. I will read those issues over and over again. But if we're talking about which team is better, I have to give it to the Blue team here. It is quintessential to the X-Men in the way that the Phoenix Saga is too. So that's going to give us a final two of the Phoenix Saga team versus the Blue team. I would like to start in the middle of the order with Brendan. Phoenix or Blue for you?
I'm going to go Phoenix.
Do you have a reason for that?
Honestly, it comes back to who would I want to reread more.
Because you hate Gambit.
Mon ami. Gambit has become Trey-OK in my eyes.
You just go, who do I want to read more? And looking down and go, shit, Gambit's in this.
No, look, I'll hold up my Blue Team Beast figure here. No, Blue Team, I love all those characters. I am going to say that I think after the first year or so of adjectiveless X-Men, that is not a great book. The art and the writing become a lot more inconsistent after the first year. Versus, I would go and reread anywhere from that Phoenix era anytime.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kevin Dillon, is it going to be Phoenix or Blue team for you?
It was going to be Blue until Brendan said that. That's a good argument.
Good.
I mean, the dowdy to daddy, and I mean, this is the area where we got the X-Men beach cards as well. If you remember those.
The Marvel Illustrated swimsuit issues, which I have every single one of to this day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing that I do agree with that. I think the thing that really stands out to me is this is like peak Rogue to me as well, though. Like, this is where you actually got her out of her doldrums. She wasn't like as I don't love 80s Rogue, if I'm being honest, because there isn't. You do. I know you do.
I love her.
I know. I like 90s Rogue a little bit more because she's a little bit sweet. There's the sweetness mixed in a little bit more, and I like the sweet with the salt. I like this. It's a good balance. With that said, I do think I'm gonna go with the Phoenix team just because the readability, and I will read that Phoenix saga. Like, I still have that compendium of the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix saga, and I will read both of them with a regularity, and I'm gonna go with it has Nightcrawler, so that's gonna be my edge over for that. So I'm gonna go with the Phoenix, and I originally had the blue team winning, so I actually switched.
And I will say, my argument has always been that if Nightcrawler doesn't leave the X-Men books, you don't get Gambit, because I think they play a very similar role. And no offense, Gambit, but like when Gambit died in X-Men 97, who did they bring in immediately after Nightcrawler? It's like, have you ever seen Nightcrawler and Gambit in the same room? No. AJ, as our special guest, is it going to be Blue Team or is it going to be the Phoenix Saga team for you?
That's tough because they're both iconic to me, and they're they're both peak X-Men. But I mean, when I think about it through my child brain, my action figure brain, I would go with Blue Team, because it's like, who would I rather look at on my wall? And I'm sorry, Nightcrawler, an Angel, but like that lineup to me is, and especially like those covers, that is just where my brain, what I picture in my Rolodex of X-Men stuff, and Gambit's in them. Gambit's in that's a big one. And also Revanche, who doesn't get talked about enough. And I'm bringing back Revanche. This is a new thing. I didn't know Psylocke dropped her body like a lizard skin or like a snake skin and just became someone else.
Yep.
I had no idea that was a thing. That's very funny and very X-Men, where it's like, yeah, I'm just a different person now.
Totally right, X-Men.
Sure. But yeah, I'm going with Blue Team.
Okay. No, it's great. And I do think there is a great argument to be made that the Blue Team is the template that the X-Men animated series is based off of. Yes, they brought in a couple of the Gold Team members, but I do think, like, if you're talking about the peak of the X-Men as a, like, awareness prior to the movies, which obviously changed things, but, like, from a comic book perspective that moved out into the mainstream, the Blue Team was the template for it. Don't hate me, AJ. I'm going to give it to the Phoenix Saga team, though, because it's not just the Phoenix Saga story itself, right? You also have Days of Future Past in there. You've also got the Proteus Saga in there. Like, it was banger after banger after banger, and it's not just the storylines, although those Byrne and Claremont stories are great. The team itself worked so beautifully there, and to Brendan's point, you had a stretch of like 30 to 40 issues that were just incredible. Even that Savage Land storyline was somehow really good, even though it's total D-list characters. You were going to say something, Brendan?
No, it was just, you even, I think, have Moses Magnum gets thrown in there.
Yeah.
Like, you could throw that team against the worst villains, or not even worst, but just like oddball, not that consequential villains, but the team dynamic was so good. You were reading everything just to see, like, okay, how are Wolverine and Scott going to piss themselves off this issue? How are Nightcrawler and Colossus going to pal up and have fun? How is Storm going to, just have some kind of amazing anthemic phrase about herself of self-empowerment? Like, just, you wanted to hang out with these characters and see how they played together in any situation.
Yeah. Oh, Murder World is introduced in that too. Amazing arc.
Which I also love Murder World.
Yeah, for that reason, I am going to give it to the Phoenix Saga team. And there you have it, folks. Our pick for the best X-Men team lineup is the Phoenix Saga team. Do you agree? Do you think we should be banished to Asteroid M? Tell us what you really feel by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com, or find us on Blue Sky or Mastodon. While you're there, make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you can hear about what new debates are coming soon, vote in open polls, and even decide which topics we tackle next. I want to say thank you to my panel, and a huge thank you to our special guest, AJ Locasio. Thank you so much, AJ. This was so great.
Of course. Was I the only See You're All special guest?
Oh, we're not that. Well, we're special.
I don't know how regularly you guys do this together, so for me, I assumed everyone was a guest. But yeah, I'm happy to do this, and hopefully my scant knowledge of the extended universe of my comic knowledge is probably the weakest for X-Men. It's all through the cartoons and then what spun off of that. That's the reaction. Meh.
No, you did
Knights of
awesome.
Neat. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. If you loved what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get even more exclusive content, and you get episodes a whole day early. We hope you have a good one, and remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion. Now, let's go blow up the X-Mansion again. And also, Kevin, speaking of your X-Men cred, you have quite the detailed X-Men tattoo on your body. Do you mind telling people?
I have the Floating Heads X-Men comic book tattoo on my arm. It is I was trying to come up with different ideas for X-Men tattoos, and I was like, I'm going to do a Cyclops where he blasts across my chest, or I'm going to have
Relatable
Emma.
content.
Yeah, I know. I wrote that one. Yeah. But then my friend was like, you could do the floating heads that used to be on the comic books and sometimes still reappear in the cover corner. So I have my favorite characters on my arm and some intersections of queer characters. So I have Cyclops, Emma Frost, Wolverine, because he's 5'2" and I'm 5'2", Iceman, Mystique, and Storm. And I have the issue of Uncanny X-Men from the year and month I was born as the issue number, and like all the different details from the corner. So it took way too long and it was way too expensive, but if you see me out in the wild, I'm always happy to show it off. Eric, I know that one wrote itself too.
It did, and I'm just going to let it go.